Every single one of us are survivors. If you're watching this, if you're alive in this modern world, you have survived. You've survived public education, you've survived your family, you've survived a whole lot. We all have different stories and we all have different challenges through which we have to fight. I was born gay. I had to survive being in the closet and I had to walk out of that. I've had really crappy relationships. I've had really crappy teachers. I've had to survive a lot in my life. I've had to survive abuse and trauma and all sorts of things. Every single one of us here, alive right now, watching this video or not, has survived the worst thing that's ever happened to us. We have. Now, we might be in the process of surviving that. We might be navigating our way through shitty relationships. We might be finding the courage to survive something like an awful job and consider moving on to something better. We all have monsters. We all have battles and struggles that we're going to fight. We all have monsters on the inside of us. We all have monsters on the outside of us. We have shitty people and situations and communities that will take advantage of us. And we have really shitty programs on the inside that will remind us that we're awful. Well, these are things that we pick up on the way. Now, as a survivor, it is important to consider what comes after that. I'll give you an example. A lot of folks, and rightfully so, identify with the mythology of the phoenix. Now, the phoenix was a bird in Greek mythology that died every 500 years, and it would die in flames and then rise again, reborn from the ashes. A lot of folks have had to do that. A lot of folks have had to walk through fire, and a lot of folks have had to find a new version of themselves. I want to invite you to consider something if you would consider yourself a survivor. What comes after surviving? We have to be careful about glorifying resiliency. We have to be careful about glorifying strength. We all have to be strong to fight against those monsters on the inside of us and on the outside of us. We have to be. But we can't stay in that place of survivorhood. Let me sort of explain why this is important to our personal well-being. If you have survived something and you're on the other side of it, and you continue to refer to yourself as a survivor of that thing, you have connected yourself to that thing. For instance, I'm gay. I've got a husband, been married, 12 years, been together 14 years. I had to survive the closet. I had to survive coming out of the closet and what came after. Yeah, I didn't stay in that place of the person who used to be in the closet. Because if I stayed in that place of identifying myself as the person who used to be in the closet, I'm always going to connect myself to that closet. And that is important for us to consider. We can walk through trials, tribulations, and fires and come out on the other side. And we can remove ourselves from the external monster, but if we are continuing to believe the thing that that monster, abuser, or perpetrator wanted us to believe, what have we really survived? I'll give you an example. If I have come out of the closet and I have let my family and friends and community know that this is my sexuality, if I continue to believe that being gay was bad, I really haven't survived much. So if you have dealt with narcissists or abusers or perpetrators of abuse and trauma upon you or your family, and you have removed yourself or separated yourself from that person or that situation, yet you continue to believe what they wanted you to believe, you really haven't survived a whole lot. You've gotten yourself to safety physically, but your heart, your mind, not safe. This is difficult because we can be traumatized by things that will imprint us and affect us deeply, very deeply. It's almost unavoidable. How do we fully recover? How do we fully move on? I think the answer lies in redefining us, redefining the survivor. How do you go from being a survivor to a thriver? somebody that thrives? And this is an important question to ask ourselves as we walk through a healing journey. The pains that you would feel from any sort of abuse, they write stories upon your heart. And those stories that are in your heart are sometimes very difficult to remove yourself from. The best way to get rid of those stories is to write on top of them. Right on top of them. It's almost like an old painting that's been painted, and you've got a canvas and you need to repaint or tell a different story on top of that. That's really important. When people are seeking a new identity, when people are seeking a new version of themselves, I will recommend a ceremony. There's, Isaac or Adi upstairs here. They can walk you through a ceremony of releasing pains. We can do our own ceremonies. We can become tattooed. Once you have a tattoo, you are no longer the old person. You could take a class. You could read a book. Think about reading a book and how you are a different person after you've read that book. Now, your abusers, your perpetrators, those people who would want you to stay in that place of pain and sorrow, they can't stop you from reading a book. They can't stop you from going and getting a tattoo. So consider what you can do to redefine yourself. We have to survive. I'm not telling anybody here not to survive their bullshit. I'm encouraging people to see what comes after survivorhood. And that's important. We can't just survive our pains because we become defined by them. And while they get woven into us and our experiences get woven into us, and they may contribute to our definition, they are not supposed to define us. We are not supposed to be trauma survivors. Trauma will happen to us, but it's not something that we should stay in. Even that survivor. I see a lot of folks. I have a friend who's dealing with an incredible divorce from an awfully narcissistic person. And they are in that process of survivorhood. I've survived for this many years. I've survived this many years. I've survived for this many years. They will eventually have to become something other than that survivor. They're going to have to add another story on top of that, or they're always going to be that person's ex-wife. If you're always somebody's ex-wife and not something different after that, you might be always attached to that person who hurt you. So the phoenix, the mythology of the phoenix, is that it just doesn't die once and is reborn once. It is always, always being reborn over and over again. How can you find yourself in a different identity? And how can that different identity and that different version of you help you to heal from the version of yourself you're trying to get away from? Be well out there. Take care of yourself. And you're a survivor, yes, but you're a lot more than that too. Happy Sunday.